Pirate Nation on X, Remedy Entertainment's CEO Tero Virtala has stepped down with immediate effect 2 weeks after the company issued a profit warning due to weak sales of FBC Firebreak. Now, for those of you that missed the original coverage of this game, I don't blame you. It kind of came and went and nobody even noticed it or really cared about it. In fact, let's take a quick look at the current player count on SteamDB. All-time peak, it didn't even make 2,000 concurrent players. This was before I started recording. Let me refresh it. Oh, 17, went up one. The 24-hour peak was 28 people. This is a team game, so I don't even know how you do it with 17 people, but you must have to know each other. But that is not great. Asmongold says, respect for leadership falling on their sword rather than issuing mass layoffs to their company. Hopefully, better games on the horizon for them. And I said, give it a month. Winter is coming. And Nick replied, accurate. First, plug the holes in the ship, then drain the water. They will definitely, mark my words, Remedy is going to be having massive layoffs. The CEO stepping down is jumping ship to get out of this hellhole. It is a massive problem for a company that was at one time making pretty good money. Geralt of Gunia with a banger post here. No respect for those who sell out to DEI. Remedy, if you're not familiar, is a very heavily laden company, thick with DEI. This is one of their slides. Remedy's Materiality matrix. And the red dot says people at the heart of everything we do. And this is the fuck around and find out chart. Importance to stakeholders, significance of economic, environmental, and social impacts. And you would see the two red dots are the highest and almost furthest across. One of them is the furthest across. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I wonder what the issue could be at Remedy. Weird. It could be anything, guys. It really could. Kyle says, Remedy CEO stepping down. I hope this doesn't change the Firebreak song and dance slated for the Game Awards. Tweeting Wario64 saying Remedy Entertainment CEO Tero Virtala has stepped down. Remedy's board of directors has appointed Marcus Maki as the company's interim CEO effective October 22nd, 2025. And this is their press release for it, which feel free to read through that if you want. I'm sure it's going to be thrilling stuff to read through. This is the post on The Verge. Remedy CEO steps down following FBC Firebreak's disastrous launch, which I would argue is giving it credit. Tero Virtala was a key figure behind the studio's transformation over the last decade, which I would argue that's as Remedy started going downhill, which means that this guy was a terrible CEO from the time that he took over to what happened to the company. Remedy used to be something that was actually growing in the game industry and could have been a damn good studio. But instead, it turned into a woke fest. Tero Virtala, CEO of Control developer Remedy Entertainment, is stepping down from his position immediately. The news comes in the aftermath of the disappointing launch for FBC Firebreak, the Finnish studio's first foray into multiplayer gaming. Virtala will be replaced on an interim basis by Marcus Maki, Remedy's chief product officer and one of the studio's co-founders. The studio says it will initiate a search process for a new CEO immediately. I almost feel like, I'm not even joking, it doesn't have to be me. You could hire literally any YouTuber that is against the DEI, and they will have a way to turn your studio around. Because I feel like anyone that has an anti-DEI stance has the gamer's best interest in mind, which at the end of the day should be all they care about. The product they create is not for nobody. It's for the gamers. So you need to have your audience in mind when you're creating the game instead of this imaginary modern audience that doesn't exist and hope that they'll gravitate towards whatever you create. No, that may have been an idea that you could have tested out and you found out it didn't work. But once you found out it didn't work, don't keep doing it. Anyway, Virtala took over the role back in 2016 and was a key figure behind Remedy's transformation over the past decade, as it shifted from a work-for-hire studio to one that developed multiple projects simultaneously and owned and published its own games. This period was highlighted by the launch of Control in 2019 and the long-awaited sequel to Alan Wake in 2023, which I could argue that was a very botched launch as well, involving Sweet Baby Inc. with it, allegedly race swapping characters and injecting a shitload of DEI into what could have been an incredible game. But no, the priority for DEI was more important. Firebreak was meant to be a major part of this transformation, a self-published spin-off of Control that was an attempt to marry the studio's world building and storytelling with a live service co-op shooter. However, the combination didn't win over players, and despite launching a major update in September, 2 weeks ago, Remedy issued a profit warning due to quote-unquote weak sales of Firebreak. To, once again, I'll point you to catastrophic, less than 2,000 concurrent. I do believe Firebreak is also on PS5. I think that's the only other place it is, but let's be honest, this is one of those, if this is what it looks like on SteamDB, it's not going to be great on consoles either. Part of the impetus behind Remedy's shift to the multi-project studio, M-, in addition to Firebreak, it's also currently developing Control 2, remasters of Max Payne, and a mystery game, M-. This was definitely written by ChatGPT, was to help it deal with potential flops like Firebreak. Though Virtala told me ahead of the game's launch that each release was still significant for the independent studio. Every single game is highly important for us, Virtala told The Verge. There is no question that we are not fully insulated, but we are less dependent on any single game than we used to be. I will tell you guys straight up that Control 2 might have a chance to be extremely profitable for them. I have sincere concerns about remasters of Max Payne. They might be very profitable if they do it right, but I have concerns about a mystery game. And again, with all the research I've done on Remedy over the years, it is a studio that could be defined as a company that fails due to their own self-inflicted wounds. The games and the ideas that they have are actually pretty good, but they have to go into the DEI with it and make the games flop. Like, that's literally all it, I know it sounds so cliche, but it's like legit. They are the perfect example of this is why DEI in gaming does not work. Look at Remedy. It crushes them every time. I am a death. The kid says, I still think Firebreak was a bad idea from the start. Burned out gameplay genre and nothing in the gameplay mechanics to reignite it, which is fair for that game. Given the powers and weapons in Control, there might have been some fun to be had in a classic arena shooter in the style of GoldenEye, Jet Force Gemini, Unreal, etc., but this wasn't it. We've already got World War Z. It's a shame because the idea of a spin-off game in the Control universe was really fun, but I had no interest in another live service game, hoping they can recover and knock it out of the park again with Control 2. That's a really good point too. A lot of studios saw Fortnite, any of these live service games that were making infinite money day after day, Grand Theft Auto Online, stuff like that. And they're like, oh, we can marry our brand and make it an online service, live service game that will just print money forever. And that's how we'll sustain our studio. And I can guarantee you at boardrooms across the planet, that's the same conversation everyone was doing. The problem is, if everyone makes live service games, the gaming population could not sustain all those live service games. It's not possible. So if everyone's going to run to the money pit of the live service, by default, many companies are going to screw themselves over by diving knee deep into that. And because of that situation, it's like, ironically, by not shifting with the times and just creating games the way games are supposed to be made, you would have actually grown your brand by sticking to what gamers wanted to play the whole time. I think the greed was only exceeded by the development costs. And I think that's what made these studios try so hard to make more money, because they were worried about the development costs of their games at the studios, and they wanted to make even more money to support themselves in the long run. But at the end of the day, it didn't work. I do wonder about the impact of AI at these studios in the future, and how, in a weird way, AI will actually help studios that should have died, should have been put out of business. But because AI is affordable for them to do it, they can continue to just keep putting slop out there over and over and over again and sustaining themselves. And ironically, I almost wonder if the future of AI gaming is actually what crashes gaming. But we'll find out. As far as Remedy, I don't think it's brighter days ahead for them. But you never know. You never know. We'll see what happens. But for now, we're going to leave that one right there.